Are you satisfied with the image you've established?
Well, the image is one thing, and a human being is another, you know.
I said, you're going to die. I said, you cannot keep like you're going. You're going to die. He said, I'll be there when they lower your big ass into the ground. And I said, no, you won't.
6 a.m., August 16th, 1977. Elvis was restless. He told Ginger he was going to read in the bathroom. 2 p.m., August 16th, 1977. Ginger went into the bathroom to check if Elvis was okay.
About 2 o'clock, the phone rings, intercom, and one maid picks up the phone, and it's Ginger. She says, come upstairs, I need help. Elvis fainted. So I ran upstairs. I go into the bathroom, and Elvis fell over. He was laying on the floor. But it was pandemonium. The ambulance finally showed up. All the way to the hospital, we're talking to him. And we get to the hospital real quick, the Baptist hospital. Got there, and they rushed him into the emergency room. You know, still in a state of shock even when you think about it. We never thought this could ever happen.
Like a train stopping. It went to a screeching halt.
The drugs were in control. Well, what happened to the good old days when you didn't need it? And he said, there are no more good old days.
I never thought he was going to live. You know, I kept saying, I said, guys, this guy is not going to make it. You know, I used to tell Colonel, and I'd tell Billy, remember we stood down, I said, that guy ain't going to make it. I said, you're right. I said, there's no way a person can put himself through what he's putting himself through and make it.
These were prescription drugs. Now, the doctor's writing them for him. He's abusing them, but they're not illegal drugs in his mind.
He was a victim. No question about it.
Get him out of that. Wasn't enjoying it. He wasn't enjoying it.
We could not stop it. I think to the day I die, that'll be one of my burdens. And, you know, we tried and we tried, but we couldn't. He was his own worst enemy.
At just 42, the king of rock and roll was dead.
Now I know that very life.
My first impression when I met Elvis in 1958 was it was hard to believe that this was such a superstar. He was such a natural, good person, attentive, caring, a warm guy. Just when you talk to him, he just talked to you like my cousin Red talked to me or some of the other guys. And he just was, I don't know, there was something about him that just drew you in.
He was amazing, his looks, and his name alone, just Elvis Presley. Who ever heard the name Elvis?
Well, Elvis was a dynamic personality, and I'm not talking about on the stage. There was something about him that was special. I mean, whether you want to call it a charisma, magnetism, or what have you. Most times he showed you that he cared.
He was the most generous, the most beautiful, inside and out human being you ever want to meet.
The way I met Elvis was in the last year of high school at Humes High School in 1953. When I moved from New York to Memphis, I still wore the same type of clothes we wore in New York. Back then, it was loud color pants and shirts and saddle stitches on the side and what was known as pistol pockets on the back. And you wore your shirt with your collar up and had pompadour in your hair. And the guys in Memphis my age basically wore Levi's, a T-shirt, and had a crew cut, except one guy, and that was Elvis.
I wanted to be like him. He was lovable, he was dangerous, everything a young kid would admire.
Over half a century ago, at Sun Studios in Memphis, rock and roll was born, and so began the legend of Elvis Presley. In the course of his incomparable career, Elvis took the world by storm, starting with his first hit in 1954, That's All Right, Mama.
I remember it explicitly. I was driving down Valentine Avenue here in Memphis with a friend of mine who also went to Humes, and we were listening to Dewey Phillips, as all the kids did back then. And Dewey started going off about, well, I got this brand new record by this boy who was from Humes High School, and both my friend and I looked at each other. We were trying to figure out who it was and played the record, and we thought it was really good. And at the end, he said, Elvis Presley. And it just, you know, it really shocked us. And he played it like 7 or 8 times in a row. He said the response on the telephone was just phenomenal.
The local response was overwhelming, and Elvis became an overnight sensation due to his unique style. So naturally, he sought after a new manager who could deal with his rise to fame. Colonel Thomas Parker, a controversial figure in Elvis's life. He then signed with RCA, which helped him become a national star and brought his distinctive style of rock and roll to the masses. Riding off the back of becoming a household name, Elvis decided to take his talents to the movie industry, which catapulted him into being one of the biggest stars in the world.
You know what happened to Elvis? Let me give you a classic example of fans literally can cause you a lot of problems and they don't mean to. They accepted him the way he was.
In any manner.
Had they got up and said, get fucked, we don't like the way you look, we're not coming to your shows, and I promise you, in 48 hours or 72 hours, he'd have got himself so shaped up, it'd have been unbelievable. In 6 months, he'd have been straight.
I think it would have destroyed his whole world. It would have ended a lot quicker.
He was afraid of that last year.
Had he known he was going to Europe, Billy, I promise you, let me tell you something, had he known he was going to Europe, he would have gone on the strictest regimen that anybody could, and I promise you, when we got off that plane in London, he'd have scared people to death. He'd look so damn.
Sure, like the satellite show. Remember how he got in shape for that?
That's right. I mean, when he had a charge to do something, the great thing that kept Elvis going was from one thing to the other. What happened to him is Colonel let him die of apathy. And I blame Tom Parker as more as I blame anybody in this world for putting him the way he did, because Tom Parker was an illegal alien and would not go out of the country. And as a consequence, we stuck our ass over here forever. Had he toured the world outside the United States, he has still been fucking alive.
The morning Elvis died.
3 p.m., Thursday, August 15th, 1977. Elvis is preparing for yet another back-breaking tour, the second tour of that year. His girlfriend, Ginger Alden, didn't want to go on tour with him. Ginger was just 21 and was not prepared to bow to his every demand, something Elvis was used to, even during his doomed marriage to Priscilla. Elvis had become unsatisfied with his career, and his life was becoming more hedonistic as he enjoyed the Hollywood lifestyle, drugs, and affairs.
All of us became, Elvis and the boys. It was pretty wild, but we were a bad wild. I mean, we liked to have a good time. It was never like we were out drinking, being drunk, and falling all over the place and doing terrible things. We just loved to chase women and it was great, and we partied all night as much as we could.
Man, I thought I was in heaven. You know, what can I say? It was exciting all the time, you know, and I thought, man, you know, if this is a dream, I don't ever want to wake up, you know, so. But it had its moments too, but, you know, overall, if you look at it, it was such an exciting time. It was something new. Elvis was gifted with the fact that, you know, he was constantly looking for something new to do. And you never knew what this man was going to come up with, you know.
The phenomenal part of it was that the screaming and the hollering, and you couldn't hear, they wouldn't stop. And it would, I mean, he could sing a number, nobody even knew what he said. It was just pandemonium, it never stopped.
Elvis had a tremendous draw to him emotionally and physically, where you looked at him and you thought, that is probably about the best looking man I've ever seen, you know? And he just had a charisma about him. He had a way of pulling you in. People call it Southern charm. He had it in spades.
8 p.m., August 15th, 1977. Elvis goes to the dentist in search of prescription drugs. He's accompanied by Ginger, Billy Smith, and Billy's wife, Jo.
In the movie years, the drugs were in control. The sleeping pills and the uppers for the energy level, those were just taken. In fact, some of us that took them, I couldn't take them every day. Not to be the goody-goody, but I just couldn't take that pill because I knew what it was going to do to me. Make my mouth dry, it was just going to make me wired all day, and I just didn't want to do it. But I had to take them sometimes because he would stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock, and we get up at 5 to go on location, and there's no way, and you don't. I learned from the very start, I sleep when he sleeps.
Fire! On the way.
The guys around Elvis, we were just, you know, we stayed wired up all the time.
We didn't go to bed till, 2 o'clock in the evening, and it was tiring after a while, and so we'd take a little speed to stay up the next day, and a lot of times we couldn't go to sleep because we were high, and we had to take a sleep till we go to sleep. And we lived that way for a long time. We really lived hard, but luckily we were young, we could do it.
Amidst the fun and games, there were already warnings of what drug use would bring.
Elvis, one weekend, he kept saying, we gotta go do something this week. He said, let's go to Vegas. Well, I'd never been to Vegas, and a lot of the other guys had never been to Vegas. So he said, okay, let's go. And we just did this for a week, 10 days. Elvis said, okay, we gotta get out of here. We gotta go back to LA. And we get in the car, start driving. I said, Elvis, why do we have to go back now? He said, well, I don't know. I just thought we'd been here too long. He said, let's go back. We turn around and go right back. We stayed 2 or 3 weeks at a time and just party. And one time, I forget, we were going so hard that Elvis started getting a bloody nose. And we went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you guys need to get some rest. His resistance was getting down, and he kept getting a bloody nose, so we had to rest for a couple of days. We did party quite a bit. We were making movies, 3 movies a year there. And, a movie, you have to get up early. You have to be at makeup like 5:30, 6 o'clock. But we were young, okay? And we liked to have parties late at night. A lot of the dancers from the movies, the extras, pretty girls, we'd all come up to the house and just sit around, talk, listen to music. We had a swimming pool and stuff. We didn't go to bed till, 2 o'clock in the evening. And it was tiring after a while. And so we'd take a little speed to stay up the next day. And a lot of times we couldn't go to sleep because we were high, and we had to take a sleep till we go to sleep. And we lived that way for a long time.
It was just sort of like having a ham and eggs or something. You just did it. It wasn't any big deal about it. Nobody knew anything. Just like I told you, it all goes back to that original thing. Nobody knew anything. You just did it. It was a magic potion, so to speak. It really was. It kept us going.
But see, in his mind were not illegal drugs. These were prescription drugs. Now, the doctor's writing them for him. He's abusing them, but they're not illegal drugs in his mind. But he wants to stop the people out on the street getting heroin and cocaine to young people and trying to influence them to get on to drugs and things of that nature. So that's what it was in his mind. As intelligent as Elvis was in so many ways, he was naive in thinking that there were separate issues there, because there really wasn't.
Rumors that you hear about me are trash. I'm an 8th degree black belt in karate. I am a federal narcotics agent. I am. Swear to God. No, you gotta, you can do whatever you want to do. I'm just saying what I am. They don't give you that if you're strung out, if you're done. No. On the contrary, I have to be straight as an arrow because I'm around people all the time. And I don't like to get out of it in either way. I don't drink booze. I don't take any this and that.
In his latter years, Elvis embarked on a rigorous touring schedule organized by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker.
He didn't like the idea of doing, 2 shows a night, sometimes 3, 7 days a week, and it bothered him. And it festered and festered and festered. It's like when I called him from L.A. when we were going to do that last tour. And I said, you just need to shut it down. I said, fuck the tour. I said, cut it off. Let's just, I said, let's just cancel this tour out. And he said, Lamar, I've got a payroll. Which, when you say that, you go, well, he's right. But at the same time, I told him, I said, listen, you got 2 or 3 guys around here that'll go to Hawaii with you. And I said, we'll hang out and you just, and you can get yourself back together again. He said, let's talk about that after this tour's over. It sounds like a good idea. He didn't make it.
With his records no longer selling, Elvis's only income came from these tours, and being 40 plus, he no longer had a huge following. He was on the very edge of financial collapse. Touring paid the bills for now, but 50% of the income went to Tom Parker. The Colonel himself was also facing bankruptcy.
We were on tour in Louisville, Kentucky. And this was about 4 months before Elvis passed away. And Elvis, the night before, had a very difficult time. He felt he had a fever. He felt nauseous. He felt flu-like. He couldn't sleep. He had a very, very difficult night. It was late afternoon, and Dr. Nick was Elvis's doctor, who traveled with us, was in the bedroom with Elvis. I was in the front room. The television was on, and there was a pounding on the door, which was very unusual because we owned that floor. No one was allowed there. We had security cops positioned in front of the elevators. Everything was blocked off. So who would knock on the door like that? So I immediately walked over to the door, looked through the peephole, and there's Colonel Parker, who never came to visit Elvis on tour. I opened the door. I said, Colonel. He said, where is he? I said, well, he's in the bedroom. Let me tell him you're here. He said, no, I'm going right in. So he, with his cane, he walked past me. He opened the door, and this is what I saw. Dr. Nick was holding Elvis's head. Elvis is in the bed, semi-conscious, almost comatose. And he was moaning. He was in such bad shape. And Dr. Nick was dunking Elvis's head into a bucket of ice water to revive him. The door closed. And I thought immediately, okay, this is good. This is good. Now the old man, Parker, is going to see what's going on here. And he's going to see how bad, the bad shape Elvis is in. And he's going to do something about it. I mean, he can't allow this to go on. It's inhuman. 90 seconds later, the door opened up. Colonel Parker walks up to me and and I get up. We stand toe to toe, and he stares coldly into my eyes. He says, now you listen to me. The only thing that's important is that man is on stage tonight. Nothing else matters. Nothing.
There's a lot of them. I can't think of any right off here.
I like to live up to my reputation of being a nice guy. This is it, folks. Beautiful.
At the behest of the Colonel, committed to a hectic touring schedule, and with mounting financial and physical turmoil, Elvis and his mafia had become more and more isolated from the real world.
I sat down with Colonel one day. I said, you know what? I said, every damn thing is just shooting your mouth off. He got really mad at me. In fact, he called Elvis to fire me once again. And I said, you got to get him out of the country. I said, we've worn this country out. You have got to get him around the world. I don't care about security. I don't care about anything. You got to get him out. And he said, we can't. I said, Colonel, you can do it. It needs to be done. And I said, this will change this whole guy's
I gotta
career.
tell you what the Colonel told me. I got to tell you this, Martin. This isn't defense of the Colonel, it's a fact.
Fuck the
Colonel
Colonel.
Parker was concerned about the drugs and the guns in the other countries.
He was concerned about himself.
He cannot get away with carrying those guns. He cannot get away
He was
with those
concerned about
pills.
himself, too.
He can't do it, and we can't go there unless he can stop and not take it.
He would
Stop
have.
Dr. Nick with him.
Well, he would
He
have.
said
He'd
there's
stop.
still a limit, and they'll jump on it.
He would have stopped.
Well, I was, in this day and time, you can't even get sick. You are strung out. Oh, by God, I'll tell you something, friend. I have never been strung out in my life, except on music. When I got sick here in the hotel, I got sick here that one night. I had 102 temperature. They wouldn't let me perform. From 3 different sources, I heard I was strung out on heroin. I swear to God, hotel employees, Jack, bellboys, freaks that carry your luggage up to the room, people working around, talking, maids. And I was sick. I was had a doctor, had the flu, and I got over one day. But all across this town, I was strung out. So I told him earlier, and don't you get offended, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking to somebody else. If I find or hear the individual that has said that about me, I'm gonna break your goddamn neck, you son of a bitch.
Well, I knew over the years, Elvis was very isolated from the outside world. We didn't know what was going on the outside. We very seldom read the paper. We watched a lot of sports, a lot of TV shows. We didn't hardly watch the news. We were very, very much hidden from everything going on the outside.
We lived in an insulated world within our own group. And our group, somebody said that Elvis really never left his bedroom. Well, he didn't. Elvis would get on his airplane bedroom and go to a hotel bedroom and would go from a hotel bedroom to his Graceland bedroom.
Elvis, over the years, every once in a while, he'd get like that. He'd go to his upstairs and he might spend a week or two and not even show his face. But that was only like a week or two. Now we're talking about months,
10 p.m., August 15th, 1977. The Mafia was assembling in Memphis for what would prove to be one tour too far. By the mid-'70s, Elvis's drug habit had become a serious threat to his life.
In 1975, what I had been seeing a little bit of the previous year or so was getting worse, and I was very concerned about his health. It wasn't like it had been before when he was taking the uppers and the sleeping pills. When he started experimenting with the down stuff, that's when we started getting concerned, all of us, not just me. The down stuff is like Demerol and things like that, pain medication that brings you and lets you down and kind of just float, Dilaudid is like a synthetic and it's 5 times more powerful than pure morphine, mostly given for cancer patients, terminally ill cancer that just couldn't handle the pain.
I got a call from Elvis saying, Jerry, can you help me? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, I'm on the floor, I can't get up. And I said, who's there? And he said, nobody. So I ran downstairs. I don't know what car I got into, whatever. Went to the doctor's house, and sure enough, Elvis was there. This was a proud man. And, he was even proud around us. And this broke my heart. And he was on the floor. So we picked him up, put him in bed. His legs really just wasn't working. I was hurt, I was angry, and I waited downstairs for the doctor to come in. And I said, what the hell is going on? He said, what are you talking about? And I told him what I'd just gone through. And he said, well, you know, this liquid diet, and we're not giving him any drugs, we're just giving him placebos. And I threatened the doctor. I said, if I ever see this man in this shape again, I will go all the way. I go upstairs and Elvis is on a stationary bicycle, he's going full speed. She probably hadn't been out of the bed in 4 weeks, right? And Charlie doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know about my meeting with the doctor and everything. And damn it, Charlie, when you get your medical degree, you can start telling the doctors how to treat me, and he was furious.
Elvis took drugs because he liked them. There was everybody thinks that there's some sort of supercilious situation where he would develop this thing of trying to escape anything. He just fucking loved them. He loved drugs. I'm talking when he would sit and say, and I'd sit down and say, Elvis, you don't need to take all this shit. He said, I need it. When a person has that mentality, there is no way you can stop them. They're going to do it, and that's the end of it. It's like I said, I need a drink. You say, no, you don't. I need it. You can't. You're done.
Some of us talked it over one day about how bad the situation was going with Elvis. And we discussed it with some of the guys that were getting it to him in a way that don't do it anymore, you're going to be hurt. And we're going to turn your doctor friends in to the medical association. Well, it dried up for a while. The guys were scared of us, the ones of us that were going to do something to him physically. Elvis finally said, what is going on? Well, how come I'm not getting this or that? And finally, Ricky, his brother, his stepbrother, told him what was going on, that we had threatened them. Elvis called us in on the carpet, told us we better stay out of his business. It was none of our business. He was in charge. He knew what he was doing. He needed it right now. He was asked, well, what happened to the good old days when you didn't need it? And he said, there are no more good old days. So he said, if you don't stop it, you're going to be looking for other jobs. We didn't stop it. 3 or 4 months later, we were fired by his order through his father. He was told, we know from Linda Thompson, she was present. Elvis told his dad to give us enough money to live on for 2 or 3 months because he was going to hire us back. Not Dave, but the other 2 of us. And give him enough money to live on. Amount mentioned was $5,000. He said, I've just got to show him I'm still the boss. Well, instead of his dad doing that, he called us in on the phone. He gave us 3 days' notice and 1 week's pay. He said goodbye.
Midnight, August 15th, 1977. Awaiting the start of the tour, the guys knew Elvis was unhealthy, but they still believed he was untouchable.
August 15, 1977, I flew in from Los Angeles getting ready to do a tour. That next day, we were supposed to leave for Portland, Maine. And we were sitting around the kitchen talking, and that was upstairs with Ginger Alden's girlfriend at the time. And Billy Smith was there and his wife, and they leave. We just ate dinner, a couple guys sitting around talking about tomorrow, what we got to do. I call upstairs, and I say, Elvis, I'm here, anything we need, anything I should know about, anything you need for tomorrow, and he was fine. Seemed very well.
3 or 4 o'clock, I don't remember exactly what time it was, but he called out at the house, and he said, would you and Joe come out and me, you, and Joe and Ginger go down to the racquetball? I said, sure. So we met there about somewhere around 4:30, I guess. And it was Joe and Ginger, and then Elvis and Ginger, and then me and Joe, and then me and Elvis. And then time it got to me and Elvis, well, it done got down to silliness. It was no longer a racquetball game. Though we were getting exercise, we were trying desperately to see who can nail the other one with a ball, And then he finally swung so hard he missed, and he hit himself on his shin, and that ended the game right there. He went complaining about it hurting. So I raised his pants leg up there, and I looked at it, and I said, it's not bleeding. I said, it can't be hurt. Then he got into a kind of a melancholy mood. You know, he went to the piano, and he was playing different songs for, you know, for Ginger and us. And then that lasted maybe, 15, 20 minutes.
Lost in his music, it was like Elvis was 21 again.
Live near or far away, I'm always longing for the day, my darling, you are home to stay. I'd be lost without your love. Oh.
And then we went back to Graceland. I went upstairs and I washed and dried his hair for him. And we talked in the bathroom. He even told me, he said, man, I'm gonna try to make this the best tour ever, you know. And he said, I'm gonna try to go to sleep. I said, okay. I said, you need me, I'll be at the house, you know. And I assumed he was going to bed. His moods swings were more frequent. Elvis Presley was always an upbeat person. He really was. And I guess that's one of the things more that made you, you know, like to be a part of that, because he was. And then to see him have these mood swings, you know, more frequent, and it was scary, you know, it really was. And I didn't like it. To be honest with you, I just didn't like it at all.
I would say that Elvis started slipping after he accomplished that feat of the 1.5 billion people watching him live from around the world on that satellite show. From that point on, I would say it just a slowly slide. No up and down, just slowly slide.
I tried not to let his moods a lot of times affect my moods. If I did, we were both in the pits of hell at that time, literally. And so therefore, when I thought he was down, I was gonna try to be up. And when he was up, I was automatically up. I mean, I was in tune to him. But it was difficult, it was hard, you know. And you wanna just say, God, man, you know, come on. It's not too late, you know. Get a grip in your life, you know, and get away from the drugs, you know. Don't use them, you don't have to. And take a little time off. Nothing's that impressive. You don't owe anybody anything. If you get rid of me tomorrow, and I told him that, and I meant it from the bottom of my heart, if you get rid of all these guys, they will understand. And if they don't, they were not your friends to start with. But take some time off. And he'd just look at me and say, I can't. I owe too much to too many people.
We lived a wild and fast life in those matter of years that he was on Earth. So, like that song, you know, he did it his way. I'm not giving the song any credit, but I wish he would have changed and did it our way, but he did it his way. And we could talk to him at times, he'd sit and agree. He'd say, yeah, I'm gonna change my life. Yeah, I'm not ready. I'll do it when I'm ready to do it. And we all had that hope, because the last vacation in March of 1977, we all went to Hawaii. We had a great time. He was in a great mood. He was out there on the beach having a good time. He was overweight at the time, but he was smiling. We thought, hey, this is a good chance. You know, he cleaned his act up for about 30 days or more. But then all of a sudden, boom, right back again.
I think there was too much pain in Elvis at that point, from going through divorce and wanting to be back with Priscilla, from losing A Star Is Born, from not being able to tour overseas. His health was giving away. You know, he had a bad colon. He had, I mean, everything you could think of, this guy was physically wrong. And he did not want to admit anything was wrong. He was Elvis Presley.
There were times when I looked at him and he looked very lonely, and he'd be in the middle of a bunch of people. And I'd look at him and I think, he's not even where he wants to be right there. He's not feeling anything right now. Times I'd go over to him, I say, hey, boss. Hey, Sonny. About ready to go? Yeah, let's go. Get him out of that. Wasn't enjoying it. He wasn't enjoying it.
I've always said that Elvis was like a artillery shell. They loaded him up, fired him, and he fell out of the ark. And I think the horrendous part of it is that we could not stop it. I think to the day I die, that'll be one of my burdens. And we tried and we tried, but we couldn't. He was his own worst enemy. And
down in Louisiana, where the alligators grow so mean, there lived a girl that I swear to the world made the alligators look pink. Oh, Sally Annie, you got your granny. Everybody said it was a shame, 'cause her mama was working on the chain gang.
Whoever has not seen Elvis live has missed the greatest entertainer of the 20th century, the greatest star of the 20th century. But when I saw him, my heart sank because I knew that something was wrong. I could see it in his eyes. I saw it in his face. I said, he can't last like this another 5 years.
We were all very frustrated. But we all could do, only thing we could do is that. We can't, he's 42 years old. You can't force this man to do anything. People say, why did you guys have him committed? How could I have him committed? He's 42 years old. I can't have him committed. His father couldn't have him committed. You can't prove he's crazy. Your hands are tied. Your hands are tied.
I didn't lay back in the later years. That last year and a half, I didn't lay back. I said what I wanted to say. The hell of it is, after all, I look back on it, it didn't do any good, and that's what hurts more than anything.
I said, you're going to probably fire me for what I'm about to say, but I said, I'm going to say it because I got to get it off my chest and it's bothering me. And he said, now you've established what's going to happen. I said, you're going to die. I said, you cannot keep like you're going. You're going to die. I said, you are on the verge of dying. When I looked at him, and he looked back at me and he said, let me tell you something. This is how his mind worked. He said, I'll be there when they lower your big ass into the ground. And I said, no, you won't. And he got mad and he said, if you bring this up again, he said, I'll drop kick your ass to Cleveland. I said, Elvis, I don't have to bring it up. People see it. And every time he'd look at me when he was real, when he was upset and stuff, don't say anything. I said, I ain't gonna say anything. So when I called him, I said, let's just blow this tour off. I was so worried when I went to Portland, Maine, that I was sick. I just said, and I knew something was going on, and I said, you know what? I said, blow this tour off. We don't need, yes, I do. I got a payroll. And I said, you can't stop that.
That was my biggest fear around him. I just could not see Elvis Presley dying. I could see him
I did.
stepping out on that stage and not being able to do his show.
I saw it.
I look at myself strictly as a human being who's, like I said, been very lucky, but whose life has blood running through my veins and can be snuffed out in just a matter of seconds.
6 a.m., August 16th, 1977. Elvis was restless. He told Ginger he was going to read in the bathroom. 2 p.m., August 16th, 1977. Ginger went into the bathroom to check if Elvis was okay.
Got up the next day, came to the house about 12 noon, this is the 16th, and about 2 o'clock, the phone rings, intercom, and one of the maids picks up the phone, and it's Ginger. She says, come upstairs, I need help. Elvis fainted. So I ran upstairs. I go into the bathroom, and Elvis had fell over. He was laying on the floor. I turned him over, and I knew he was dead. I just knew it. But I was hoping he wasn't. I picked up the phone, called the operator. They didn't have 911 at that time, and said, we need an ambulance here at Elvis Presley's house. And I didn't tell him who it was. And meanwhile, I couldn't do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation because Elvis' mouth was closed shut. There was no way possible. There's rumors I did that, but somebody made that story up. I was trying to massage his heart as well as I could, and it just seemed forever. People were all coming up there, and it was pandemonium. The ambulance finally showed up, and it seemed forever, and I found out later it was like 20 minutes before they got there. We got him into the ambulance. Stretcher came, got him down in the ambulance. I jumped in the back of the ambulance, all the way to the hospital, we're talking to him. And we get to the hospital real quick, the Baptist hospital. Got there, and they rushed him into the emergency room. I'll tell you, it was tough. And 30 minutes later, about 30 minutes, I would think, Doctor came into the room, and he said, Elvis has left. Elvis is gone. And we all broke down, and we all hugged each other. And it was, very emotional time, naturally. We were, still in a state of shock, even when you think about it. We never thought this could ever happen.
I go to Graceland. I pulled into the gates, and Elvis's uncle says to me, Larry, did you hear what just happened? I said, no, what happened? He said, Elvis just died. Well, wait a minute, what did you just say? He said, Elvis just died. I look up at Elvis's bedroom, and I looked at him. I can't begin to tell you the state of mind that put me in.
There was a PR guy from the hospital was there with me. He asked me, he said, do you want to make the announcement that Elvis is no longer with us? And I couldn't do the announcement. I couldn't make the announcement to the press. I told the PR guys, you do it. I can't do it.
He was officially pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. at Baptist Memorial Hospital. His death was felt around the world.
God, we're driving down, and the radio's on, and they play an Elvis record, and the disc jockey says, by the late Elvis Presley. I couldn't believe it. My best friend is dead. No matter what you want to say, that's the biggest loss to me I've ever had. And we can say he had a good career, we can say this, we can say that, but the guy's dead. Here's a guy that helped everybody else. If you were sick, not just with money though, he helped you talk things through, whatever else. I don't think he got the reciprocal from his friends, And Colonel was on the phone to Joe. And he was saying, yes, I know, and you need to do this, you need to do that. So he hung up the phone, and I was leaning on the television set. It was on a stand, and I was leaning on it, my left arm, in fact. Things become really indelified in your mind. And he walked up within probably 8 inches of my face, 10 inches, and he said, you got to go back to Memphis. Elvis is dead. And I looked at him, and it hit me like a sledgehammer, and I looked at him and I said, listen, I said, you know what? I said, you finally ran him to the ground, didn't you? And he got mad at me. I said, you know what I'm talking about. I said, y'all wouldn't let him up. You kept working him. You kept working him. He said, you need to leave. And I said, yeah, I'm going to leave to keep from knocking your damn teeth out. I think the best way to explain when Elvis died, it was like a train stopping. I know for about a year after Elvis died, I couldn't hear. I was almost deaf. It was like, they say that the accident doesn't kill you. It's a stopping that kills you. And the stopping, it stopped. It went to a screeching halt.
My wife and I got up in the morning, that morning, out in California. We had Arabian horses. And we were going over, I bought her this Arabian horse. We were breeding her to a famous stallion over there. And she was in season, acting in season for the last 3 or 4 days. We get there, we go with and let me tell you something. This is very important. There was a misty type overcast rain, and it was not forecast the day before. And I said to my wife, I said, Judy, honey, I thought this was supposed to be a pretty day. A little fall early and then burn off. She said, I don't know. So we left. We get our mare, who's across the street in a crowd. We're taking her. I've got a halter on her. As I'm going down there to put her into the barn for the breeder to come out, he comes running out. It's a friend of mine, very good friend. And he comes out and he said, Sonny, man, have you heard? And I looked at him, I said, Elvis died. And he said, yeah. I went to my knees. I just cried out loud and went to my knees, let go of the horse, everything. I lost it. Judy reached down and grabbed me. Harvey took the horse. I started crying, he didn't deserve this, he didn't deserve this. I got up and he's saying, I hear him apologizing, and Judy saying, no, Harvey. He said, I didn't know he was that close. He said, never mind, it's okay. I walked over to his fence, over their ranch fence with those long white planks, and I hauled off, and I hit one of those and broke it. I said, I gotta get out of here. So we left, went home. I started walking around from room to room, just crying. Phone's ringing. Can't answer it. Judy had to answer it, take all the calls. I couldn't talk to my parents, any of my sisters, or my brother. I could talk to nobody. Tell you what, I miss him today.
The funeral, during the funeral, some weird things happened, you know. We got ready to load the casket into the hearse after we loaded it and all. All of a sudden, this tree limb broke and made a hell of a sound, really did, made a crashing sound. It was not that big a tree limb, but it was big enough. And to look at it, it looked green. It didn't look like it was rotted and fell. It looked, everybody kind of looked at each other, and of course, I think Lamar said something, you know, said, well, he's still at work or something like that, you know. And then we got to the mausoleum, and they had him set up, and there was this little round window up above, and it faced east and west. And it was, I guess, around 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And when the sun finally came over, where the wood separates the panes, there was 4 of them, it threw this pretty cross across that casket you've ever seen. Of course, I can't tell you the cold chills that run across my body, you know, from the thought.
You know, my best friend is dead. No matter what you want to say, that's the biggest loss to me I've ever had. And we can say he had a good career, we can say this, we can say that, but the guy's dead.
It was that rocket ride with Elvis that we went through. It was such a part of life, you know, and a fascinating one at that.
I've tried to be the same all through this thing, you know. Naturally, you learn a lot about people, and you're involved in a lot of different situations. But I've tried to be the same, I mean, the way I was brought up. And I've always considered other people's feelings. I never, in other words, I didn't kick anybody in a way. Hold me away. What I look at myself as, not being, you know, not really playing everything down, but as a human being, really, who's been extremely fortunate in so many ways. Although I have had and still have some very lonely and, you know,
There are times when I don't know. It feels like I don't know what I'm going to do next.
When Elvis died in 1977, the cause of death was ruled as a heart attack. But decades on, advances in medical science have found evidence which could point to a much more sinister reality. In the months leading up to his death, Elvis's body was completely ravaged. He was suffering from high blood pressure as a result of a lifelong high cholesterol diet. His lungs were under the strain of emphysema, a long-term disease which causes shortness of breath. His heart was twice the normal size. He had excessive liver damage, and his colon was shockingly enlarged. But it was his addiction to prescription drugs that finally pushed his body over the edge. The Memphis Mafia had all discussed Elvis's use of prescription drugs to great length, and that it was a very real problem. It is suspected that the king of rock and roll had taken a cocktail of medications, including morphine, Demerol, Placidol, Valium, codeine, ethanamate, Quaaludes, and antidepressants. Elvis's heart attack could very well have been the result of an overdose. As these drugs mix into the bloodstream, they can have an adverse effect on the heart, causing a rapid and irregular heartbeat, narrowing blood vessels already pushed to their limits by his high blood pressure. One pill too far, and the world comes to a sudden stop. We may never know the full story of what happened to Elvis in that bathroom on August 16, 1977. But the answers may come eventually. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, had his son's autopsy report sealed away until 2027, the 50th anniversary of the singer's death. Perhaps that autopsy holds the key to unraveling the mystery, a mystery that saw the world lose one of its greatest icons in music history.
There's not a day that goes by I don't think about him. I have dreams about him. I've had him, my last wife. One night I just jumped up in the bed, I was sitting straight up. Elvis said, "Holly, Lamar." And I heard him, and he woke me up. I mean, I heard his voice like he was right next to me. And I was in a cold sweat. She said, "What is it?" I said, "He just hollered at me." And every day it goes on.
Do you ever think of re-enlisting? No, sir. I never thought of. I never thought of re-enlisting. But maybe someday I will write a book about my experiences in the Army. You know. Have 2 years of sobering Army life changed your mind about rock and roll? Sobering Army life. No, it hasn't. It hasn't changed my mind because I was in tanks for a long time, you see, and they rock and roll quite a bit.
Still get very pissed off about it. You know, it took a while. I didn't get pissed off right away. I was too hurt, too confused, too frustrated over not being able to do anything to stop it. And I get pissed off with the people that helped contribute to it. But I get pissed off with Elvis. He was a smart man. He knew what he was doing, but he denied it. Maybe he really couldn't see any way out. He mentioned it to Billy, his cousin. Billy told me that last year when we weren't around. he mentioned to him that, you know, maybe he did sometimes take a little bit too much medication.
I was angry about his death. Elvis, I thought he had no right to die. I thought he had no right to die at that age. I think that he left too much on the table. If anybody ever left too much on the table, Elvis did.
When you're in the situation, it's so much easier to look back or to question than when you're living it. And don't forget, when you're in the situation, it's not like all of us were, you know, not staying up. We were these straight guys with this one freak over here. It wasn't that way. We were all in the boat together in various levels, you know.
When I was a child, ladies and gentlemen, I was a dreamer. And I read comic books, and I was the hero of the comic book. I saw movies, and I was the hero in the movie. So every dream that I ever dreamed has come true 100 times. And these gentlemen over here, you see these type of people who care, who are dedicated, you realize that it's not possible that they might be building the kingdom of heaven. It's not too far-fetched from reality. I'd like to say that I learned very early in life that without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, a man ain't got a friend. Without a song, the road would never bend. Without a song. So I'll keep singing the song. Good night. Thank you.
In his short lifetime, Elvis became an icon that will never die. To this day, he is the best-selling single artist of all time and is hundreds of millions of record sales ahead of artists such as Michael Jackson or Madonna. Over 650,000 fans still visit Graceland each year to feel closer to Elvis at what is now a National Historic Landmark of one of the most influential artists of all time.
I don't know if history will ever catch up to how smart this guy was.
You know, not a day goes by that something doesn't happen in my life through a phone call, seeing somebody, or some way, an email, that someone doesn't spark something in me. Thoughts about Elvis.
Elvis was something else. But his blind spot with his body and what he put into it. He's responsible ultimately. But at the same time, he was a victim. No question about it.